While there are many things you can do to make NPC conversations more interesting, extreme works best. People don't want to have a normal conversation when playing a fantasy, hilarious game with their friends, right? They want intense conversations. They want in each conversation to feel big or overblown or excessive, memorable, really. And so, with that in mind, we're going to talk about some ways that changing to a bigger conversation style or bigger personalities as with your NPCs can make your game better. But first, welcome to How to Be a Better DM, the show retired and energetic DMs alike can enjoy. My name is Tanner Wayland, and I'm excited to talk about this topic today specifically because I feel like it's something that the DMs maybe don't uh, co- cognitively realize, even if it's a part of their style. Because I see a couple different things from DMs. One, you've got the DM who they really focus on the jokes of it all. Like they make big personalities or silly things, but they're just doing it to get a laugh, right? And then you have the DMs who maybe they have that occasionally, but for the most part, they actually try and make their world feel grounded. They try and make their characters feel like normal people. And honestly, both of those have a place in DMing. What I want to get across today, kind of as one of our four pillars, storytelling, is that you can improve your storytelling by acknowledging the power of going big or going home, basically with your NPC conversations and your role playing. Because I mean, for many NPCs, it feels like they have one purpose or one piece of information, and they're not entirely memorable. Either that, or you have gone all in on being like, no, this is going to be a real character in the world, and I want them to really stand out. But maybe the answer isn't picking and choosing NPCs. Maybe the answer instead is just going extravagant, going a little bit unrealistic with your with your NPC personalities. Hey, even your villain personalities, because we kind of expect that where we're like, oh, villains are going to be villains. But if every character in your world is an extreme personality, or they give big emotions or obvious tells, then that's going to make it so that more often your player characters are having an amazing time, a memorable time. Now, maybe this is hard for you to picture. Like, okay, I'm talking about like go big or go home with NPC conversations. What does that look like? Well, here's three examples. Number one, showing and telling more obviously. What I mean by this is, I mean, we've all done this as DMs. Had players talk to an NPC who's saying one thing, but doing or feeling another. And let's say that they roll insight and you'll be like, oh, you notice they're kind of fidgety. And that's a very run of the mill kind of situation as a DM. What do I mean by showing and telling more obviously? If an NPC is lying to a character, or if you want to get something across, make it obvious. Obviously, maybe you don't want to give it unless they roll an insight, but let's say they roll an insight. So have them, on one hand, if you're trying to trick them, be as kind as possible. Have the NPC be as pretend helpful as possible. For example, it's like, okay, your party's in a town and they're talking to the mayor, the sketch mayor, or at least their sketch. And you're like, okay, I want this to be like a little bit of a reveal kind of situation. Then go all in. Make the mayor super helpful. Make him be like, oh my goodness, you're here to help our town. This is wonderful. Yes, please. I'll help you out of absolutely anything our city can do for you. Please just tell me. Now, that by when you're like, okay, I'm committing to this being a trickster type character, where they're kind of being hypocritical or lying, make it so that it's super obvious that they're trying to help you verbally. And then on the backside, be like, okay, now if they look into this, how can I make it obvious that, this guy's full of it? There's a few ways you could do that. You could be like, okay, he says that. And then your players are like, "Oh, could we get this kind of help?" And he's like, "Oh my goodness, I would normally love to, but oh, the bakery right by the armory just, it caught on fire and they're picking it up. So I can't really justify getting a crew in there to clean it up and open up the way for you to get some weapons out of the armory. I'm so sorry about that." So you basically verbally be like, "Hey, I want to help you so bad." And then flip it and be like, "Oh my goodness, excuses, excuses, excuses," right? Or you could show in a different way where it's like, the mayor's saying, "Of course, you have all our support." And then to, the showing of it all, the player rolls a good insight and be like, "You notice that the mayor is reaching underneath his desk." And then just go at it. Be like, "Okay, like they notice this," rather than it being kind of a thing where the players can just be like, "Oh, hey, we don't think you're on board." If the mayor's gonna be an enemy, just go all in, you know? Like, they're lying through their teeth, and then at the same time, they're reaching under the desk to press a button that opens up a trap door. Yeah, I know it's not realistic, but it would be exciting. Or they're reaching under their desk, to hit a button so that, "Help, I mean, we're gonna get you," or something like that, right? Obviously not. There's a lot of ways you can use this and not just the mayor. But the point is, if you're going to show and tell with your NPCs, do it big. Uh, and this kind of leads into the second example, which is going big with personality, going big on like the NPC motivations and alignments. So in that case with the mayor, it's like, okay, if they were just a slightly bad person, they probably would just waffle a little bit and just not help the players. But that's not fun. Like, is it? No. If they're going to be a bad person, all the way, open up a trapdoor, call in the knights. In fact, pull out a weapon and start trying to attack you right then when your back is turned and you're just leaving the room. Something like that, right? Don't do half measures with NPC motivations. If they're evil, be pretty darn evil. Or on the other hand, if they're good, have them be just as helpful as all get out, right? Like someone's trying to help, and it's like, oh, it maybe you have them pass a little bit of a persuasion check, right? But then once they pass, go all in. Be like, okay, I could just have them be slightly helpful, and then they'll remember this as the conversation where they had slight success with this boatman who's supposed to like bring them across the river. But no, they did well on the persuasion check. They did well on the insight to like give them some tips on how to persuade him better. Let's have it be all in. He's not a bad guy. He just needed persuading. And so now he's telling the party little pieces of info. And he's like, you guys remind me a lot of my grandkids. Do you guys want to learn how to fish? Or something like that, right? Go go extremes with just the motivations and the goodness and evilness and the alignment of it all. Um, because that's more fun and more memorable. And then, of course, the third one, and this is the one that I think a lot of people um, already partially do, but maybe they could do a little bit differently, is going big on personality traits. Because you want your NPCs to be memorable, but also, is there a little part of you that's holding back that's like, oh, this NPC's whole deal could be that he loves this, that he's like all about this rock that he's holding in his hand, and the players don't yet know yet, and it's just a mundane rock and that he's a little bit loopy in the head, but make it obvious, right? If you're gonna have an NPC and you want them to remember it, be like, okay, your party walks up. What do you do? Oh, we want to ask someone for directions. Is there anyone around? Yeah, there's a guy over there. Okay, we walk up. So you see a man, and he's looking at it down at something in his hand and kind of just like polishing it with his sleeve a little bit. What do you do? And they're like, okay, we talk to him. We ask him a question. And then instead of you being like, oh, he looks up and then he answers questions. Maybe he's a little suspicious. Maybe he's not. Whatever. Instead, you're like, okay, so as you get closer, like it's pretty impossible for him not to notice you, but he's still just focused at this thing on his hand, and he's just polishing it and, holding it up to his cheek and just like, uh, kind of just like holding it in his hand, transferring it back and forth. And he says, "Yeah, how can I help you?" All the time, not looking at you. And then your players will be curious and then be like, "You see that he's holding a rock." Um, but he answers your question. "Oh yeah, the mayor sorry, what was your question?" And just go big with it. And then of course, if you make it a big thing, like it's a dumb personality trait. The guy has a rock. But if you go all in on it and make that a big part of it, then one, you already have like him being forgetful because he's just focused on this rock that he found, or him like losing his mind if the party grabs it and they find out it's just a totally normal rock. Like all of a sudden, this normal, forgettable conversation, it becomes a whole thing. It becomes a whole part of their adventure. And if you do that throughout the adventure, like another NPC, her whole thing is that she's a real salesperson. And so every time the party's like, "Hey, do you know where an inn is?" She's like, "You want an inn? I can get you an inn." And that's like there's a lot of ways you can go bigger with the personality traits. And does that mean you're gonna have some, 2D stale, like, kind of flat characters? Maybe they wouldn't be the kind of person you'd write a book about, but they're the kind of person that your party's gonna be talking about for a good while, right? Because with D&D, you don't need fully rounded NPCs. You need memorable NPCs. You need like NPCs that evoke big changes and experiences, and you're not going to get that by doing half measures. And so maybe this was overkill on just getting the idea across that if you're going to make NPCs and you're going to take the time for it, just be obvious, don't be subtle, make your NPCs very one way or the other in their alignments, and make them very big personality. Like this is all worthwhile. And in fact, my challenge to you is that for the next 3 NPCs you create in a row, don't space them out. Do them in a row. Go big. Capital B big. Or go home. Just kidding. You can you can keep playing even if you don't. But I think this challenge would be a really great opportunity for you to be like, "Hey, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can just, even if it's a simplistic idea, if I can go big with my next 3 NPCs and see what a difference it makes in your campaign, especially with your players." I think you'll be surprised, and also surprised that it's not as hard as you thought it would be. So I hopefully that's good. Hopefully that's fun. I think it will be. But until next time, let's roll initiative.